From a so-called dirty bomb. NewsHour's science correspondent Miles O'Brien has been looking into that and filed this report.
That's wrong too. I got you, Chris.
It's the start of a long day for the New York City Police Department's anti-terrorism unit.
And a lot of potential targets. Even if you look over to your right here, you can see these container ships. And these other ships are actually field barges.
The three queens of the Cunard cruise ship line, Elizabeth, Mary, and Victoria, will be steaming out of New York Harbor together. It's an obvious potential target for terrorists, so the unit is out in force, fielding various kinds of radiation detectors over and through the harbor, on and under the streets, on their belts. High on the list of worries here, the threat of a so-called dirty bomb, an improvised device that couples conventional explosives with radioactive material.
How do you assess the risk of something like this?
We look at it as a real possibility, and we look at it as being a real possibility every day.
It's a big concern for New York City's Police Commissioner Ray Kelly, because a dirty bomb is not nearly as difficult to acquire or assemble as an atomic weapon.
How easy is it to make one of these radiological devices?
Explosives are available, and radiological material are available. Just have to bring the two of them together.
Unlike an atomic weapon, the radioactive materials in a dirty bomb do not fuel the explosion itself with nuclear fission or fusion. Instead, a conventional explosion is used as a means to spread a toxic cloud of radioactive dust.
The worst case radiological dirty bomb would not have those kind of effects in the least. But I'm not trying to belittle a radioactive dirty bomb, because it could have significant effects in terms of economic damage, social disruption. So it's a weapon of mass disruption versus a weapon of mass destruction.
But imagine what might happen if a dirty bomb blew up in Times Square, a proven target for terrorists.
Frankly, your job is to think about all of our worst nightmares, right?
Captain Mike Riggio of the NYPD Anti-Terrorism Unit.
On the tote board of nightmares, how does a dirty bomb rank?
It's up there, because I tell you what, anytime you take explosives, which can kill one person, 5 people, 15 people, one person, 5 people, 15 people, and you combine it with a radiological material that, like I said, now is a health hazard, but also a long-term, possibly closing this area.
Closing down Times Square for many months or even years so that it can be decontaminated would cripple the city and cost billions. And who knows what the long-term health effects might be for those exposed to the cloud.
You never know where you may find something radioactive. These are the usual suspects, if you will. This is an isotope called strontium-90. It has educational, medical, and industrial applications. This is uranium ore, and that's uranium metal. Here's the surprise, though. This is a piece of Fiesta ware. That distinctive orange color comes from uranium oxide in the glaze. It's just as hot as those other items.
Ken Sheely is Deputy Director of the National Nuclear Security Administration. He says they are focused on the bigger radioactive fish, material used in industry, medicine, and higher learning. The federal government estimates there are 77,000 sources of radiation that would be useful for a dirty bomb in 2,700 buildings in the U.S.
I think it would be pretty easy to find the material.
What about getting it?
I think it wouldn't be that difficult to get the material.
This is scary.
These are very soft targets, and I think we've done a lot to further improve the security. But I think, we cannot just rest on our laurels. We have to continue to be one step ahead of the terrorist.
Experts from the NNSA and the Los Alamos National Lab are trying to do just that, recovering radioactive material that is no longer in use. So far, they have secured nearly 25,000 sources at about 900 sites around the world. Among the items they have recovered, flow meters and pumps used in oil production, devices used by schools for radiation experiments, medical scanners, and blood irradiators. But this work is by no means done. The NNSA is working with 90 other countries, trying to secure radioactive material in about 13,000 buildings.
We always feel that we are in a race against the terrorist. So as the terrorists are trying to think of
new ways to access materials, radiological materials. We're trying to think of new ways to protect them.
As we get an alarm on this display,
The NNSA fields 9 nuclear radiological advisory teams, first responders that deploy about 100 times a year. They carry a dizzying array of sensors to big events, inaugurations, Super Bowls, and the like. They use devices mounted on vehicles and in backpacks to detect and home in on a radiation threat.
Once the team has found a target, the next task is to figure out precisely what it is. This is a gram of plutonium. They tell me it's okay to stand here, though, but it really is a gram of plutonium. Oftentimes what they'll use is this handheld device. It's called the Identifinder, very simple device, and it is able to make out the radioactive fingerprint.
The war against the radiological threat does not come cheap. The total bill is about $1 billion a year. $70 million goes to New York City to fund its anti-terror efforts.
I think it's a wise investment. We spent a relatively small amount of money every year to prevent an event that could have upwards of tens of billions or maybe $100 billion worth of damage. So you look at the trade-off. It's an insurance policy.
But Charles Ferguson still believes a dirty bomb attack is a likelihood eventually.
You feel like we dodged a bullet?
We know that we have a lot of intelligence capability that hopefully would detect something like this in the planning stages, but we don't know enough to say that we've dodged the bullet.
On this busy day in New York City, the only alarms were false.
Categorical statement that if a dirty bomb came into the city, you think you'd detect it?
I'll tell you one thing. I can tell you this with 100% certainty, that we are tremendously prepared. I think we give ourselves the best chance to interdict than anybody else.